As I'm reviewing things, Illustrator is a little behind the times, but you can rest assured that it'll catch up on a regular basis. You can also select options such as web, film and video, and so forth. But for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to switch to print, which allows me to select standard paper sizes such as letter, A4, and so forth. You can also select a template from the Adobe stock library, many of which are free. But for now, I'm going to create my own blank document by first changing the name here. And by the way, this is just a temporary name for your document. You don't actually decide the file name until you save the file to disk. Now notice that by default, at least here in the States, the unit of measure is set to points, and I'll explain what's going on there in the next movie. But for now, I'm going to switch the unit to inches. Now I want to draw your attention to this artboards option. That determines the number of pages inside your document, which may make you wonder why in the world Illustrator calls pages artboards. Well, there's two reasons. First of all, the whole notion of pages is locked into a paper size, whereas artboards can be any size you like, so that you can trim your artwork to a custom paper size for commercial reproduction, or you can specify a device resolution and so forth. The other reason is that each and every artboard inside your document can be a different size and orientation, and we'll see what that looks like in the future. But for now, I'm going to change the number of artboards to 6. I also want to dial in a custom page size, so I'll go ahead and select the width value and I'll change it to 6, and then I'll tab to the height value and change it to 8 inches like so. Now that ends up giving me a vertical orientation as indicated by this portrait icon. If you want to switch your artboards to horizontal, then click on this landscape icon instead, in which case Illustrator goes ahead and automatically swaps the width and height values. That's not really what I want, however, so I'll go ahead and switch back to portrait. Now notice these bleed settings. The bleed allows you to print beyond the edges of a piece of paper. So when you're commercially reproducing a document, you can actually create an image that's bigger than the trimmed page. And so the bleed gives you some extra wiggle room. And so what I'm going to do is click one of these up arrow icons associated with top, bottom, left, or right. And because the link icon is turned on, all of the values are changing in kind. And I'm going to click a second time so we have a bleed of 1/4 inch, which frankly gives us more than enough room. And now I'll go ahead and click the Create button, or again, you can press the Enter key here on a PC or the Return key on the Mac in order to bring up your new document, complete with a total of 6 artboards. Now I want you to know what we're looking at here. Notice that each artboard has a black boundary as well as a red one. The black boundary represents the actual artboard size. So in other words, this white area measures 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall. And so if we were to commercially reproduce a document, then the commercial printer would trim the pages accordingly. This red boundary represents the bleed. And so that way you can draw beyond the boundaries of your artboard, and everything inside this bleed area will print. It'll just get trimmed away. And you can tell which artboard is selected, by the way, by the appearance of this black boundary. So notice if I click in the next artboard over, its boundary turns dark, while the first one turns gray. And that just gives you a sense for which artboard is selected at any given moment in time. You can also see the number for the artboard down here in the bottom left corner of the screen. So currently my second artboard is selected. If I click on that first one, then the value changes from 2 back to 1. And that, folks, is how you create a new document here inside the most recent version of Illustrator CC.